Let's talk about inflation proofing your small business. Couple of things. The Wall Street Journal ran an article over the past few weeks talking about different strategies for three separate companies. The first was Procter and Gamble, where they said Procter and Gamble was looking at spending more money on advertising on their premium brands. That's a good strategy for them, and that if they can actually sell more of their premium brands because they have higher margins, that will help them to absorb some of the costs that are coming in from other parts of the business. And they may actually be able to do this without necessarily raising pricing on some of their products too much. And Procter and Gamble is good for like Tide and Dawn and Pampers and a lot of consumer products. Verizon is looking to raise pricing on wireless plans. That might make sense for them because as their operating costs increase, they pass that along on their wireless plans. Given that they're in the consumer market, that actually makes a lot of sense for them because people are expecting that a dollar or two raise on their wireless plans might make sense in what's going on. People will probably take that and run with it. And then of course Whirlpool is looking to slash production of appliances. So if they actually shut down on less profitable lines, making those less available, then they'll create some demand, raise the pricing for other of their appliances, and that's one way they're looking to make their way through the a high inflation period. Wall Street Journal, on the other hand, came back. Not Wall Street Journal. The Morgan Stanley, on the other hand, actually came back. I loved theirs. They talked about inflation armor. They weren't necessarily speaking to small businesses, but I think there's a lot of strategies that they were getting at there. And they had an interesting comment, which, as you know, I always teach this. Companies that help their customers boost productivity and reduce costs through automation are fantastic suppliers because those two strategies help to lower costs for those customers, for your Fortune 1000 customers. If you boost productivity and you reduce costs through automation, and there's a whole host of other ways you can reduce costs, that actually begins to make them more profitable. But let's talk about this automation piece because Morgan Stanley went on to talk about three different techniques for actually reducing costs through automation. One was deploying artificial intelligence, which is very interesting. If you can get smarter computers to actually do some of the work of humans, then you don't need as many people. So that's an interesting avenue that they're approaching there. Clean energy. There's a whole host of technologies that are being developed to be both more environmentally sensitive. That's a new industry. It creates a lot of cost-saving opportunities for companies. And then Morgan Stanley mentioned mass energy storage. In other words, think high-capacity batteries, where this becomes a huge cost savings because it potentially has the ability to reduce transportation costs. Think of you don't have the operating costs of trucks if they're running on batteries, and you potentially don't have the continual operating costs of electricity or operating costs if you actually are running on high capacity storage batteries, which can be recharged at lower cost than it takes to run electricity 24/7. So as a technology play to begin to get in and reduce your operating costs, that high capacity battery one actually is going to be pretty significant. On the other hand, for your small business, I'm going to give you another one that I think actually makes a lot of sense. And I'll start off with it by giving you a story. My brother used to work for a fast food restaurant chain. Well, they weren't fast food. It was a restaurant chain called Bennigan's. And Bennigan's was nationwide in the U.S. And I was picking him up. We were going to go do something once he got off work because he was supposed to get off at 12. But I walk into his building at about 11:45, and he goes, "There's no way I'm getting out of here at 12. We are super busy." And I had some people that didn't show up and so forth and so on. I said, "Well, what you need me to come back, or is there something I can do to help?" And he looks and he says, "I'm going to put you to work." I'm like, "Dude, I don't work in the restaurant. I don't know anything about this." All right. I used to do enhanced oil recovery research. I don't know anything about working in the restaurant. He said, "You don't need to know anything. Just come here. So he takes me in the back, and it's like for the first time I actually see what a kitchen looks like in a restaurant. That's a story for another hot take. And he gives me this manual. He says, "Can you read?" I said, "Yes." He gives me the manual. He hands me a cutting board, a knife, a couple other different things. He says, "Here, read this. I need this, this, and this. I'll be back to check on you in 15 minutes." I opened the manual. I looked at it. Everything there was straightforward, made sense, and I started prepping right then and there. 15 minutes. He said, "You got it?" I said, "Yep." I had one or two questions for him. He left me alone. Sure enough, in about 45 minutes, we were out. Okay. Now, the reason I'm sharing that story with you is I want you to think about in your small business the power of your procedures manual. And I use the restaurant industry specifically because I want you to think about something else. McDonald's. Think about fast food, all right? And, you have an expectation when you go into fast food or any kind of restaurant chain that you go to that you have consistency, you want the same experience, and you expect a certain level of quality, and you don't really care where the location is anywhere in the world. They have managed your expectations to the point that you expect them to be consistent on that. Now, interestingly enough, they aren't necessarily known for hiring your Einsteins and your Edisons and your Madame Curies and all of these different, your George Washington Carvers. They aren't known for hiring those folks. A lot of them actually take people right out of high school who have absolutely no training, no professional experience or background, but they get them hitting the ground running very quickly. Now, why is that? The answer is they have very robust procedures manual, and this works in hospitality as well as food service, where they can take people who don't have a lot of formal training and get them running. Now, you might say, "Randall, yeah, that works for them, but not necessarily my business." And that's my challenge to you. Given the Great Resignation, given the fact that you oftentimes can't compete with the big salaries that the big companies can actually give people that you've trained, then the challenge to you is how do you rethink your business so that if you actually were to work your way through a detailed procedures manual for, say, 60-70% of the jobs in your business, would that then allow you to bring people on who don't have all the formal training that you're looking for to do certain parts of the business that is routine and certain parts of the business that you're willing to take the risk on that they can get up to speed rather quickly, and then take that other part of the business that you actually need the more detailed experience and technical expertise and knowledge, and use that to sit on top of this so that you still get the quality of output you're looking for. Now, there are three things that you can expect to get from having a very, very robust procedures manual and challenging yourself to actually do this in a way that allows you to lower your operating costs and allow you the flexibility to bring more people into your organization. So the first thing is, if you do this in the right way, you should be able to first be able to lower your people costs because obviously you're going to need capable, competent people. But if you are very precise about what you need folks to do, even if they decide to quit or they go off and do other things, then you don't have that steep learning curve to replace them. That's huge with inflation, all right, because people are leaving, making more money in other places. So the fact that you need to continually have people coming through, if you can't charge a lot more money and doing other kinds of things, this gives you that flexibility. Number two, it creates the opportunity for you to really and truly drive process improvement, because when you go through the work of detailing out that procedure manual, you then can start looking at, well, why did I write it this way? When somebody comes in to execute against this, to train against this, when they start asking me these questions, why are we doing it that way? Are they going to see a faster, simpler, easier way to do it because they're giving me real-time feedback about some of the challenges in following the procedures? Remember, I went into the restaurant with absolutely no experience, looked at the menu and the procedures manual, and I was up and going in 15 minutes. All right. I had it down. Actually, it took me about 7 minutes because I could read. Okay. The third thing is if the procedures are robust, then it enhances the product service and reliability. All right. Because anybody can come in and they can perform at a specific level. As people get better, you tighten the procedures, you tighten the processes, you tighten the controls, and you then can start increasing your productivity and your quality and your service levels. But you do that because you're managing by exception, and you can effectively coach people on where they need improvement, where they don't need improvement, because it's a detailed procedure and process. But in order to help you make it through inflation and be able to get people in and get the work done, I'm going to recommend as one of your strategies that you really and truly rethink how well written are your current procedures manuals. That's just one thought. We'll have plenty more, but that's my hot take for now. Bye.